I have a water pump rebuild kit right here and new coolant. So let's get to some maintenance. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. I am in the process of doing maintenance on my 2020 KTM 390 Adventure. It has just over 27,000 miles. It's winter, and I thought now would be a good time to do some of the stuff that should be done, like replace the coolant. Now, I had mentioned that in a previous video, and it was recommended to me that I replace the seal, the water seal, and the water pump since I'm already draining the coolant. So I thought, why not do that? And then I won't have to worry about it for another 30,000 miles. So I picked up a complete rebuild kit. I believe it has both the oil and water seal in here. But in order to replace the oil seal on the other side of the water pump, you have to crack the case. So I am not replacing that seal, but I will replace the water seal. And I believe this also comes with a new impeller, a new crush washer, and also new bolts that goes over the top. So let's get started with this. This project is going to take some time because I am draining the radiator completely, and I'm going to remove the radiator in order to get to the front of the engine so that I can do the valve check. So this is just part of that process. Let's get the coolant drained, and we'll go ahead and replace the seal and have the water pump all done so that when all my other projects are done, it's ready to have fluid added back in. All right, first step is to drain the fluid. I believe this is the drain on the water pump. Before draining the fluid out of here, in order to get to the radiator cap, I took all of the plastics off the tank and the fender, the plastics that went on this part here that covered the radiator. So now I have access to the top of the radiator, so I can hopefully get that lid off. Okay, and now that that's off, when I pull the screw out of the drain, it should come out. All right, there we go. Okay, as you can see, I got a little carried away. Tank's gone. I've just really taken everything apart that I can because I want to get to the valves, but we're here to do the water pump. So now that this has had a chance to drain, we'll start taking this apart and getting all those pieces replaced and get the water pump part of it done, and then I can move on to my next project. But I've done a lot of taking apart today. All right, this is 8mm screws or bolts. So get those pulled off, and they are not very tight. And I should get my bowl under here, so when I pull this off, any remaining fluid will spill in it. So I'll do that real quick. Okay, all the bolts are out. They're all the same size. All right, well, just like I was expecting, there's some extra water in here. It's popped off, so we're just gonna pull that off to the side and expose the impeller. So I just need to take this off, and the rebuild kit comes with a new impeller. So I'll put a new one on there after I get that seal. So I had to put this in gear because this is turning the engine over. There we go. Finally locked up to get me to pull this off. Now, let's pay attention to how this comes off, because there is a crush seal here. And there's also Loctite on that. So I need to make sure I put Loctite back on. And I think this is going to be a pain to get this pulled off. There we go. Got that first crush washer off. All right, so I'm just holding on to one of the fins, and I am gently pulling that so that it slid off. I was afraid if I damage this and I can't get it off for some reason, I would be in big trouble. So, but that slid off okay. And let's see what's next. Looks like the next thing is just pulling the seal out. So let's see what we can do. All right, using a screwdriver, prying this thing out. I was able to get it out, but it's harder than I expected. All right, so I'm gonna re-grease the new seal on the inside and then push it in until it seals back up, until it sits flush in there. All right, I have a grease gun with this little tip on it, so I'm gonna use that to put some new grease in here. With this grease, it's going to put it on the inside here. This, the 15 millimeter deep socket sits right over that. So I'm going to use that to push it in place. All right, seals in, smooth, it's flush. And now I'm going to put the new impeller on. It goes on like that. Okay. Put that on. And, oh, Loctite. All right, I put just a dab of Loctite on the threads here. We'll put that on. I'm going to torque this to 9 Newton meters. And then it has the Loctite on there. This kit came with a new seal. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the old one and put the new one in. It is a rubber seal, so it's probably okay. But since I have a new one, I'll go ahead and replace it. Okay, there's the old one out. And the new one's in. Okay, there we go. Now all I have to do is set that back on there, tighten it up. All right, that was the water pump seal. If you've done this before, let me know what your experience has been down in the comments below. I'm just curious to see if you ran any difficulties, if you had trouble getting the seal out or getting the new one in. The new seal going in was a little bit challenging. Not bad, but it's flush. It's in there, and yeah. So I've got a new seal in there. Hopefully, it'll go another 30,000 miles and do what it needs to do. So I did this because it was recommended I do it as a wear item, and since I had drained the fluid and I was replacing it and I've removed the radiator, it just seemed like a good time to do it. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend doing it unless you have a problem. When you have a problem, then you have a good reason to do it. But to do it just as a maintenance item, I'm kind of up in the air whether or not I would do it again. But it's done. There's one last thing that we need to do in order to completely change the coolant, and that is drain the overflow tank, which is located right under the gas tank or right under the air intake. And from what I've seen, you're not getting that tank out without pulling the air cleaner box and the subframe off. It's tucked in there or pulling the shock. So there's one way I think I can get it out that I will go through, and just real quick, I'll explain it and then I'll do the best I can to demonstrate it. So there is the tube, the overflow tube that comes off of the radiator. I'm going to tape a string to it so that I can pull that tube back through the engine area, and then that is the low point on that tank. So I'm just going to hold that down until that drains. And then because it has this string on it, I should be able to pull the overflow tube back up to the radiator, plug it in, and be done. So let's see if that works. The overflow tube I haven't put back on after taking the radiator off and getting it replaced. So I'm just going to stick this string here and throw some duct tape on it. Hopefully this works, because fishing this tube back through the engine compartment area is going to be a little bit challenging. Just it's tight, and pulling it through all those areas, it's not going to be easy. So we're going to try this. I've pulled the tube almost all the way through. I don't want the string to go too far, so that down. And there we go. That should drain everything out of the overflow tank. Okay, string worked perfectly. Getting that pulled back through. And I just had to be gentle on it. If you tug it too hard, the string's going to come out, and then you're going to be fishing it through. So just something to make it a little simpler. So I just slide the hose clamp back on here. Push the overflow tube on. And I might be able to do this without pliers. Yep, got it on. Now I just need to add some coolant to the overflow reservoir. All right, that is it. I've got the coolant changed in the bike. I've also changed the water pump seal. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, I don't know that I would do the seal unless I was starting to see water in the oil, and then you know that that seal is leaking and it's time to replace it. I did it because it was a recommendation to do that, and also if you need to get that done on your bike, you have a resource to go to be able to do it and see what I did. Now, in changing the coolant, I will say a couple of quick notes is I would actually recommend, if you're going to change the coolant, maybe consider taking the radiator off. And the reason I say that is once I took the radiator off in order to get into the valve covers, there was still quite a bit of fluid in the radiator itself. So by taking it off, you can dump everything else that's remaining in there. And then also, once you have this off, tilt the bike over the other direction so water can flow, the coolant can flow out, and you'll get as much as you possibly can out of the bike. So just a couple quick tips. So if you have changed a coolant on your bike, let me know what your experience has been in the comments below. If you found this helpful, please let me know in the comments below as well. I want to make sure that I'm making videos that are useful to you all out there. And if you have any other maybe mechanicking tips that you could pass along to help me in my process of what I do, just start pulling things apart and putting back together. I don't always follow books or anything else. I just do it. So anyway, if you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button down below. Thank you for watching. Get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I will see you out there.